Okay, folks, we are rounding out the week with episode, I believe, 143 of Beyond the Gates. First of all, the promo for next week looks fire, and yes, I will do a separate video on it. But let me just say this up front. Yeah, I was wrong. People were at Jeremy. Haley did not say she was pregnant. Okay, I can't hold you. I wasn't really paying attention to that scene from Thursday's episode. I feel bad because for the most part, I think I did a bang up job with the review. But to have it in my title, Naomi and Haley are both pregnant, and then I'm dead wrong. You know how some fans are like, oh, I always tune out whenever Ashley or Derek are on screen, or when Leslie's on the screen, I put it on mute. I've kind of gotten that way with Haley just because she is truly in her bratty phase. And based on what happens later in this episode, I mentioned this before about Haley. What does she have to offer Bill outside of sex? And in this episode, not even that is working. So Bill is truly at the point of, oh my goodness, what have I done? When it's like, man, shut up. It's like you don't know what you had until it's gone. And you were the one that got rid of it. And now that she's with another man, Dani's with another man, you're in your feelings. So, yeah, this episode, I am giving it a 10 out of 10 because I laughed my behind off, mainly due to Bill. And I know the Derek and Ashley stuff were kind of mad, but yeah, overall, there's a good portion of stuff to say. Actually, before recording this video, I did like a 13-minute video about Naomi, so I won't go into full detail here, but I will talk about it. I'll go into some detail, but don't expect like a full fleshed out video. That's its own thing, and it is done. And I'm going to try to post all this stuff in one time over the weekend as well. So, yeah. First of all, thanks for being here. Make sure you take a moment to like and subscribe. And also, side note, I am almost done cleaning my office. All I have to do now is I took everything out of my closet, which is full of just random collectible stuff that's going to go on eBay at some point, or things I'm keeping for myself. Once that's done, well, the office is going to look a lot nicer. But another thing is, while I was going through everything in my office today, I'm like, hey, I found my other microphone, and I need to order another USB cable for backup, because I recall a week or so ago, one of my reviews had a big section where the sound was completely off, but I didn't know, because when I was recording, everything looked normal. And when I was putting the video together, everything was fine. But when I uploaded it, I'm like, no. So yeah, like I always say, I do my best to maintain a certain level of quality. And whenever people donate to the channel, like I always say, if you go down to the description box, PayPal, Cash App, Zelle, or when I get my YouTube ad revenue, because you watch my content, I use some of the money when needed to buy new things to, stay at the top of my game. So yeah. Got the new mic. Probably won't pull it out yet. I think really I just need to get that new USB cable to avoid any errors in the future. But with that being said, let's jump into this review. Yeah, let's jump into the review. So Haley pours herself a drink after announcing that, she's not pregnant. And yes, again, I screwed up. I don't know. I was just so excited to see Bill get some humble pie after what him and Dani had their scene yesterday. And like I said, I kind of zoned out because Haley's just, every time she talks, it's just whining. So my bad. All right. So she worries that she'll never be pregnant, but Bill is sure that it will happen in due time. But for now, I get to have you all to myself. So they make out, but the thing, and this, like, Bill's facial expressions killed me. While him and Haley are making out, he can't get Dani out of his mind, which goes back to what happened in episode 142 when Bill's like, yeah, let's just act like this kiss never happened. Oh, easier said than done. I know you can't forget about it. And then she smiles and leaves the office. Well, she was right. And remember, Bill kissed Dani. So as Haley's on top of him making out, he flashes back to, the wedding and whatnot. Then he starts moaning about it. And then he thinks about their fight, and then the kiss, and then he puts a stop to him and Haley, doing it. And Haley thinks like, what did I do wrong? But he's like, I have a lot of work to get done. It's like, I've seen your calendar, Bill. Why are you lying? But he's like, I'm not trying to be cross-examined right now. But she's like, I don't like being lied to. And I know what it is. You're thinking about Dani again. He goes berserk. So he is just annoyed by her constant questioning of his priorities, and he's annoyed with her jealousy. And that's when she starts crying, and it's like, you're not attracted to me anymore, are you? So in order to prove that's not the case, he chucks her over his shoulder and they go upstairs. Now, the thing about it is, this reminded me of Gone with the Wind when drunk Rhett grabs Scarlett, goes upstairs to have sex. And I know it's controversial because that was a grape scene to some people, despite them being married at the time. But it almost feels like some people on Twitter were saying the same thing. It's like, Lord, Bill's gonna grape her. But no, it just felt like, it was a moment of frustration, and he's like, I'm gonna prove you wrong. But Big Bill couldn't get his little Bill to work. I don't know. I'm stupid. So what Bill thought would be an act of proving his love to his wife turned out to be the catalyst for even more debate between the two, because he couldn't get it up. And she's like, it's because of Dani. And she's like, well, I'm frustrated too, because I haven't been able to give you a child yet, and I want the unbreakable bond that you have with Dani. And Bill is just over the whole thing. And that's honestly, as a non-parent and being single, I will look at this situation and go, and you can let me know if you agree or disagree. I think that is incredibly selfish and an awful catalyst for having a baby. I want to have a baby with you just because I want to have the same bond that you have with Dani. Haley fails to realize this goes beyond having a baby. Bill and Dani had decades together. No, it was not perfect, but they saw each other through some tough times. You just waltzed in, seduced him, and became his new trophy wife. It's like you did a speed run to become Mrs. Hamilton, but you didn't have you can never have what Bill and Dani have. And let's be completely honest here. Even if they have a child together, she will most likely still be second place. Because let's keep in mind here, Dani and Bill have 2 grown children. At some point, they will become grandparents. Now, that depends if Naomi decides to keep the baby she's currently pregnant with, but still. So, Haley is just trying to do the most, and it's downright ridiculous. So, that's when she's like, well, maybe it could be ED. Why don't you get the little blue pill? And then that pisses him off. And when he comes back, he mentions how you always make accusations when it comes to Dani, but it's not her that's the problem. He hopes Andre knows what he signed up for. And it's like, Bill, bro, denial just ain't a river in Egypt, man. Come on. This is ridiculous. So, we go over to Naomi telling Jacob about her being pregnant, and he's just over the moon about it, and she is devastated. Now, all the while, Jacob is like, okay, we need to level up. We need a new place, bigger. Fairmount Crest. Look, I know you wanted to get away from your family, hence why we moved out to DC, but I think that's for the best, because Fairmount, they have that area has the best schools and whatnot, and I want us to give our baby the best. And she's like, look, slow down. And it's like, well, okay, you're right. I'm just going on, and you're not feeling well. How are you doing? I'm just nauseous, okay? Well, you need to go to the gynecologist. That's it. And then she just goes all like, stop it already. Remember I said I never wanted kids in the first place. I'm a lawyer, not some birth machine, because, this whole thing will cause me to lose my sense of self. And as I mentioned in my separate video about Naomi projecting, I talked about how if you're a fan of Tyler Perry's Zatima, in the last couple episodes of season 4 that aired October 2nd, which I did my reviews on my other channel, Our Kind of Entertainment. Fatima's kind of going through the same thing right now. Now, he does, somebody on Twitter said it best. Naomi's expressing why she doesn't want to be a mom. Jacob is tone deaf to it, but not just because she doesn't want to be a mom. It's the fact that Naomi would rather stay in other people's business than become a mom. And I'm like, that's the whole thing. She mentions how she's been so busy she forgot to take her birth control pills. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if you hadn't been running around worried about other people's business so much from June and the closed adoption to helping June flirt with men, being on Andre's case about marrying your mom. And if you look at the entirety of the show, most of Jacob and Naomi's scenes, I feel like more energy and effort have been put from them into helping Ashley and Derek stay together than their own marriage. Think about it. Somebody clapped back online. It's like, well, Jeremy, it's not like she wasn't busy when she was thinking about her sister's abduction. Well, during that time frame, she was also grilling her dad about, emotionally manipulating her mom and whatnot. And to be honest, I don't really feel anything here because it's like, Naomi, yet again, you spend way too much time being intrusive, yet you didn't take the moment you need for yourself. Also, she's worried about, her career. Kind of like I joked in my last episode review about Jacob always opening cases but never solving them. We've only seen Naomi work on 2 cases, right? The one where she tried to represent those 3 women, but she gave it up. And then the whole June thing, which is that case even still a thing? I cannot remember. So there. But he mentions how just because you become a mom doesn't mean you got to drop your career. Look, we're married. We can work it out. And that's when she argues how it's different for women. And she kind of dropped the bar here, though. You'll be a happy family man working as a detective, but then when it comes to a working mom, everybody's going to judge and question about whether or not her priorities are straight. That is kind of true, but I mean, Naomi, I just feel like you care too much about other people and what they think. And I want to be a great lawyer so I can change laws and fix the world, and a baby's not a part of that. Well, that's when Jacob is like, well, maybe it's fate. And Naomi brings up the fact that, hey, before we got married, we agreed we didn't want kids. But he's like, yeah, I remember. But work gives her a purpose unlike a baby would. I mean, because she calls him out for not listening. But honestly, this goes back into why I did a separate video that is pretty lengthy. Naomi and her dang projection. She just looks at what her parents went through and she doesn't want to be them. Oh, my mom was at the top of her game as a model, but then gave it up to become a devoted and supportive wife and mother, only to have her husband discard her. So instead, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give up my career when I get married. I'm not going to have kids. I'm not going to lose my sense of self only to be betrayed later on down the line. And when it comes to her father, she idolized him, wanted to be just like him, hence why she pursued law. And like Tomas said, it was understood, it felt like a, foregone conclusion that she'd be the one to inherit the law firm. But what did she say to Chelsea or somebody else? She eventually found out about her father bending the law and whatnot to his own will, and seeing that he wasn't the upright, outstanding lawyer that she thought, she opted to, do her own thing at her own firm. So it's almost like, when you really think about it, Naomi is her own worst enemy. She projects a lot of her fears and whatnot into her own marriage by trying not to be like her mom, trying not to be like her dad. And she talks about how becoming a mom might cause her to lose her sense of self. But if we're being completely honest here, I don't even think Naomi knows who she really is. All we know is that she knows who she doesn't want to be, which could explain why she's so intrusive. There you go. Now, that's why she mentions how she grew up with her mom, Dani, who grieved her whole life as a model. And despite not regretting being a mom, there's still unresolved feelings. And that is kind of true, hence why Dani projected her former career onto Chelsea. And even though, Jacob's like, oh, come on, it's not like that. And that's when Naomi says, look, I saw it in my mom's eyes, okay? So that's when they argue yet again about, like, who's going to get up to feed the baby in the middle of the night. And that's when Jacob, and I think this is kind of cool because this kind of thing does happen, when, and maybe it's not always in relation to kids. Sometimes it's like, having a family pet or doing something fun because maybe your spouse is kind of a couch potato, doesn't want to travel, things like that. But once they do it, it's like, wow, okay, this is actually kind of cool. So I kind of felt bad that, Naomi was shooting down Jacob's happiness because, he thinks it'll be fun to watch their kid ride a bike and, see their face light up on Christmas morning and, as they take their first steps, say their first words. And she's like, she worries that she'll let the kid down. And that's when he rightfully calls her out. It's like, look, you excel at everything you do, and this is no different. I mean, keep in mind, it's not you that would let the kid down. I'm here too. We can do this together. But Naomi seems like, despite, there's like a glimmer of hope where it seems like she's coming around, but then it's like, I'm not happy about this. And if we're being completely honest here, I could see something going down where Naomi will go behind Jacob's back and terminate the baby. And I could see that being the catalyst for a divorce. Because that is a massive, major decision that she took upon herself to implement without talking to her husband first. But Jeremy, she talked about how she wasn't happy about being pregnant. And despite, voicing her thoughts and emotions, I truly feel like this would be something they needed to think about together. But that's just me. We'll have to wait and see. Now, over at the Newlyweds, Dani talks about how she doesn't want to talk about her ex to Andre. And she wants their space together to be a Bill Hamilton free zone. So he rubs her feet and they talk about how way back when she had stepped on a Lego or something when she was pregnant and she had a scar and, Bill bandaged it up and rubbed her feet daily. And he talks about, or he asks about, so what happened when you went over to Bill's office? And she talks about how Bill offered to handle their annulment free of charge. And Andre makes a good point. It's like, you know what? Me and you we just can't seem to get over old feelings. I mean, you and your ex, you and Bill just can't get over each other no matter what. Despite the fact that, well, he's married and then we got married, there's still something there. And then that's when Dani mentions his feelings for unseasoned chicken, aka Ashley. Now I need to watch the episode to feel more. The chicken was dry, real dry. So that's when she asked if Ashley made him use hand sanitizer before they touched. And Andre's not happy with the shade she's throwing there, but he admits he still carries a torch for her. And then he brings up the question about, well, if you're still feeling your ex and I'm still feeling, well, not my ex, why are we still married? And that's when Dani's like, oh, come on, because it's fun. I mean, it's just a piece of paper. We're still doing what we do before, right? And that's when Andre, in the last episode, his scene with Naomi where he snapped on her, I thought was good because dude was just fed up with being trampled by the Duprees and the judgments, everybody around him. But to me, this scene worked because he was really honest. This is like, look, my sister-in-law, Auntie Nicole, and Uncle Ted, they're all I have. And I can't stand them both being angry with me. And Dani's like, how about this? Let's just set some ground rules for this marriage. an open one. I, I'm, I, hey, let me just, throw this out here. I am not shaming anyone who has any sort of open relationship. I just know for me, if I were to ever get into a relationship or find the right woman and get married, that's it. Like, I don't, I know there's some people like, hey, this will spice up the relationship, or, you're my person, but there are certain things I get over here with that person, or I'm not that kind of guy. It's just sad that I have to say I'm old fashioned. When growing up, that was the norm, but now it's just common practice nowadays. I mean, sure, there's always been cheaters, but the fact that an open relationship is, well, you know what? Let me stop there, because then it gets to the point where it sounds like I'm being judgy. It's not for me. If it's for you, it is what it is. But I just think Dani and Andre, they both deserve better than this. I don't like this. I don't. So they agree, hey, let's keep it open so long as we're both safe. We communicate with each other, and if things in between us, this marriage gets, dissolved, we'll still be friends. And they agree to that. And she's like, well, just make sure you make me orgasm 3 times a week. Just 3? I could do a little better than that. And that's when he's like, well, can I at least get a drawer, at your house? She's like, okay, sure. So after they have sex, he's like, how about I move in? Yeah, no, I like doing my own thing because, I lived with a guy before, for decades, and I like living alone. So then to kind of round things out, 2 more scenes. Let me go through the Derek thing first. So he's eating Ashley's cooking, and they talk about the firehouse and how the men there were like his second family. Not to mention, I don't know if he lived with his coworkers. I know he used to live with a bunch of other dudes in an apartment, so I guess they were just his friends. So she encourages him about, being back on his feet sooner than he expects. And that's when a ping comes on her phone, and it's celebrity gossip news about Dani and Andre are staying married. And she looks upset about it. And Derek's like, hey, what's going on? Oh, no. It's, I just have a sweet treat for you. And it's, what is it? Some berries and cream. So that's when he's like, well, there's something else sweet I want. So they start making out. And as he's in bed, she comes out with some lingerie. All right, look, I don't care. Ashley fine to me. Maybe there's some bias there because she reminds me of a girl I knew from college who was a nursing student. And I don't know. We just kind of drifted apart. It sucks. So that's why. But either way, she fine to me. I don't care what you say. Now, in any case, they try to make love, but it's kind of stiff and awkward, like Derek, because he can't move his legs. Look, say what you want to, he's going to slip up because he's like, oh man, we can't do it. And I feel like if I can't, then you're going to get sick of me. Oh no, we just need to get creative. Watch them get creative. And in the midst of it, he's going to turn into Thumper. That leg going to be, moving around. And then she's like, your leg. Derek, look, I know you're trying to keep it a secret. But when you in that mood and that trigger happens, you'll see. All right, now let's get to the last scene here. We go back over to the casino room, and Joey and Donnell are discussing how, hey, here's how I know your mom. Yeah, we're actually investing together. And Vanessa's like, yeah. And that's when she tells Donnell, hey, let's get out of here. Let's go home and I'll make you some dinner. And Joey's like, well, maybe we could just have some drinks together. Isn't that a bit inappropriate considering that's how your father died? But hey, if it's what you want, son. And Joey gets the bartender to pour them all some scotch and they toast to Doug. Also, that was a cute bartender, by the way. She, All right, so that's why, that's where Donnell is like, so why didn't you tell me how close you two were? And Joey didn't think the timing was right, all things considering. And that's when Donnell gets a call from one of his frat brothers, and they put together a plaque that they made for Doug, paying their respects. And Donnell and his mom are just moved by the tribute. And that's when Vanessa mentions how the 10th anniversary between her and Doug is when she gave Doug that watch. And despite, everything, they were having troubles connecting due to the fact that he was so busy. Yeah, busy. And, dang. He was speechless and probably most likely would be proud to see you wear it on your wrist. So that's when Donnell thanks Joey for pushing that, bartender and dealer of yours to give it back. And he's like, well, it's the least I can do, And that's when Joey steps out and overhears Vanessa telling Donnell about how proud Doug was of him. And that's when Joey comes back inside and Donnell thanks him one more time before he and Vanessa leave. And that's when Joey calls the dealer for playing along with the kid. Hey, you'll be paid within an hour. So it seems like the whole firing him and all was just an act. But that's when Joey's thinking about how there's no way Donnell can piece together what actually happened to his dad. Now, look, I might be reading this a bit much, but just based off Joey's reactions to the plaque and, everything, and Vanessa talking to, her son about his father and whatnot. Do you think do you think Joey might be feeling a little bit remorse? I don't know, but it just seems like, oh, wow. So I don't know. I just, I'm not saying he has a heart of gold per se, but I think this scene and his reaction and everything might show he actually has somewhat of a conscience. Because it does, here's how I look at it. Joey's the kind of dude where he gets people to do his dirty work and that's it. But it's rare that it's most likely rare that he has to look at the face or look into the eyes of the survivors of one of his victims. Like, when Randy's like, hey, I came back to face you because, come on, Joey, I got a kid. I don't give a damn. Well, yeah, if he gets Marcel to take out Randy, it's very unlikely that Joey would interact with Randy's kid. But to actually have Doug's son approach him in anger, but then calm down and then have moments of vulnerability, and especially when the woman that he's banging is his mom and they're, having emotional moments thinking about Doug, it's one of those things where Joey's like, oh, did I make a bad move? Because it's interesting how that plaque to me was such a moving tribute, since when you look at how Doug moved and the way Joey perceived him, he truly was a loser. But seeing the outpouring from his son and his grieving widow, and now, his son's college buddies and whatnot, Joey might see that Doug was richer than he thought. Dang. Oh, sorry, got a bit emotional saying that. Yeah. Excuse me. All right, well, that's all I got for this particular review. Thanks so much for tuning in. I do appreciate the support as always. And if I made any mistakes in this review, feel free to call me out in the comments. All right, well, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.